Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Tinted Spetrum. Now, we talked about this YouTube channel in our last video. At a high level here, YouTube just flat out banned this channel and nobody knew why. Tinted Spetrum didn't know why. And when they asked YouTube to review their channel, YouTube just had an AI do it and didn't have someone human do it. And a lot of people, like Did You Know Gaming, and even more, were calling out YouTube saying someone should really manually review that ban. Well, it turns out that YouTube manually reviewed the ban, and guess what? The ban was reversed. Tinted Spetrum is back. So here is the latest tweet from the creator of that YouTube channel. It's back. Thank you sincerely to every single one of you that boosted this. To have to go through 24 hours of absolute stress in order to have this reinstated, and with still no indication of what triggered it, is insane, but we're back. And YouTube's message is, we're pleased to let you know that we've recently reviewed your YouTube account, and after taking another look, we can confirm that it is not in violation of our terms and service. We have lifted the suspension of your account, and it is once again active and operational. Absolutely crazy. And speaking about YouTube channels, next up we're talking about video game Esoterica. And video game Esoterica has a brand new video out called Nintendo Goes Too Far, sues streamer and says emulation is illegal. Now, I do recommend checking out this video, and like everything I talk about, link will be in the description below right at the bottom. Video game Esoterica has a very in-depth knowledge of trademark and copyright and IP law. And speaking about even more, next up we're talking about the Steam Deck, and the Steam Deck has a brand new colorway here. It is the limited edition white version of the Steam Deck. It does have the OLED in it, and it goes on sale on November 18th. The price for this one is $679 US. It is going on sale basically wherever you can get a Steam Deck, including Australia. And it will be the 1 terabyte model. In my opinion, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I don't think I'm going to pick one up because I've still got the standard Steam Deck and it's working absolutely fine for me. I'm not going to pick something up just because of the colorway, but I may pick up those buttons. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Are you interested in the white version of the Steam Deck, or are you interested in modding your Steam Deck if you've already got a black version and maybe changing out the joysticks or the buttons to mix up the colorway? Next up, we're talking about jgenesis, which is a multi-system emulator for a whole bunch of different consoles like the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive, Sega CD, Sega 32X, Sega Master System, Game Gear, NES, Super NES, and Game Boy. And jgenesis just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, jgenesis version 0.8.2 is the latest update. And with this update, we've got a bunch of fixes, a bunch of improvements, and even brand new features. And they say here there's mostly front-end improvements, the highlights being improved audio-video sync and more flexible input and hotkey mapping. Also adds Genesis overclocking support. And there are a couple of things to note. Input and hotkey configuration is not compatible with previous versions, and save states are not compatible with previous versions. Next up, we're talking about a brand new Kickstarter for the Game Boy Color, and this one is a brand new game called Cake Keeper. Now, sometimes I'm skeptical about covering Kickstarters because there's usually a pretty huge risk of the project not finishing. Anyways, this one seems pretty safe. It's a very modest goal they had. They asked for €5,000 and they smashed that goal within 3 days. Not surprised. There's still 23 days left to go. There's 61 backers on this. And if I take a look at the tiers here, it's only €15 for a copy of this game, €10 for a digital copy of this game. This project does have some stretch goals, and I'm assuming it's going to meet the bonus stage stretch goal of €10,000. This is an arcade game, and let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below if you saw the trailer. And speaking about the Game Boy Color, next up we're talking about Ace Attorney on the Game Boy Color. I'm not joking with you. Check out this tweet. Have you ever thought about how Ace Attorney would look like on the Game Boy Color? Well, now you can play it. My little brother recently made the first Ace Attorney for the Game Boy Color using Game Boy Studio Dev. It's incredible. So Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney demo is up on itch.io. It can be played right in the browser. They say it works on an actual Game Boy if someone were to put it on a cartridge, and apparently it also works in Game Boy emulators. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Next up here, we're talking about the Mr. FPGA. And if you've got a Mr. FPGA and a 3D printer and you like to create stuff, you may be interested in this project. It's a Mr. FPGA portable, and the creator of this one has released basically everything for it. Additionally, they've got a YouTube video showcasing this thing in action, and I would say the end result here is pretty impressive for something that's 3D printed. Let me know your thoughts about this one if you've got a Mr. FPGA and a 3D printer and you're pretty creative and possibly wanted to do this. Next up, we're talking about DXVK, which stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, and it's a Vulkan-based translation layer for Direct3D 8, 9, 10, and 11. And if you use something like Winlator, you might be excited to know that version 2.5 of DXVK has just dropped. This is the latest update since the end of September, and in my opinion, this is a pretty big update. They say resource and memory management were completely rewritten in order to use allocated video memory more efficiently. Reduced fragmentation may reduce peak memory usage in games such as God of War by up to 1 GB in extreme cases. And on top of that, there's a whole bunch of bug fixes and even more here. For example, for Direct3D 8 and 9. There's bug fixes and improvements for Ascension to the Throne, Command & Conquer Generals, King's Bounty, Warriors of the North, Tomb Raider Legend, and Rayman 3. And for Direct3D 11 here, there's bug fixes for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered, Diablo 4, The Sims 4, and even more. Next up here, if you're a fan of the Sega Dreamcast and a fan of Golf Shyouyo 2, you may be excited to know that this game is now back online. I am not joking with you. And on top of that, they say here, as with the previous game that Shu revived, Sega Tetris, I've done my part of translating most of the online menus and messages in this game to English to make it much more accessible for non-Japanese speakers. That is super interesting, and again, like everything I talk about, links will be in the description below. Moving on, and we're talking about Ubisoft, and it appears that Ubisoft is being sued for shutting down the crew. And this is completely separate from the Stop Killing Games initiative. I would say it's arguably complementary given the context of everything. But at the same time here, a couple of people have got together to try to launch a class action lawsuit. The lawsuit was apparently filed on November 4th here, and within that lawsuit, it's reportedly said, imagine you buy a pinball machine and years later you enter your den to go play it, only to discover that all the paddles are missing. The pinball and bumpers are gone, and the monitor that proudly displayed your inaccessible high score is removed. And that's kind of what Ubisoft is doing with the crew. Polygon is reporting that the lawsuit says players were duped in two different ways. First, by allegedly misleading players into thinking they were buying a game when they were merely licensing it, even if a player bought a physical disc. And second here, that Ubisoft falsely represented that the crew's files were on its physical discs to access freely, and that the discs weren't simply a key for the game. That is very interesting. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. If this one becomes a class action lawsuit, would you join that class action lawsuit if you purchase the crew and no longer have access to it? And how do you think this is going to affect Stop Killing Games? Do you think this is going to put the pedal down on that initiative and really propel it forward? I personally think it kind of does. I mean, on one hand, Ubisoft can face this lawsuit if it goes to court, or on the other hand here, I think if Ubisoft just makes the crew playable offline, then the lawsuit kind of goes away. Who knows what's going to happen here, but I am very curious to see what does. Next up here, if you're a fan of Half-Life 2 and you're a fan of fan games, you may be a fan of Project Borealis Prologue. This is supposed to be a Half-Life 3 fan game. And the demo for this one is now up. It's 100% free, and the Steam store page is also active. Project Borealis Prologue is built in Unreal Engine 5, and in my opinion, based on the trailer alone, it looks pretty good. But let me know your thoughts and if you're interested in trying this one out. And speaking about trying stuff out, next up here, we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and I can't wait till I can actually try this game out. The game itself looks awesome, and I'm very interested in it, and there's a brand new deep dive gameplay video that just dropped on YouTube. The gameplay video is 14 minutes and I think 30 seconds long. And the game itself, well, you can just see based on the trailer here, it looks not even trailer, this is actual gameplay. The gameplay looks incredible, and I've got very high hopes for it. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle launches on December 9th. It will be on PC and on Xbox Series X and S, and it is being made by Bethesda. I'm really hoping here that this game turns out to be awesome. And I'm very curious to see what the modding community is going to be like for this game too. And speaking about Xbox, next up, this is just a quick heads up. We're talking about Spyro, and it turns out the Spyro Reignited Trilogy is headed to Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass PC tomorrow, or possibly today, depending on when you're watching this video. Next up here, we're talking about Joe Operation Blackout. This game launched on Steam back in 2020, and the overall review score on this one is mixed, with less than 100 reviews. Taking a look at this game, I'm assuming it's not that popular. It is on sale right now for 67% off, but they are removing this one from Steam. Unfortunately, I've got no information as to why they're removing this game aside from this very short and not even sweet announcement. It's just very basic. Product removal announcement. This game and any related DLCs and bundles will be removed from sale on December 31st, 2024. Not even a thank you for playing or really anything like that. Just, yeah, we're getting rid of it. And last up here, in my opinion, this is very exciting in the technology space. Apparently adding ceramic powder to liquid metal thermal paste improves cooling up to 72%. This could be a game changer. Now, from my understanding, this is really targeted to huge data centers with complex cooling situations, but I mean, at the same time here, I think this could benefit PC gamers. I'm thinking GPU cooling, CPU cooling, and all of that great stuff. I'm very curious to see what products are made because of this and what's going to be available to the general public. Now, it is worth pointing out on a side note, we're probably going to have to wait and see for testing to see if this really matters in an everyday situation for just an everyday person with a regular PC. Who knows here, maybe we'll see a couple degrees off, maybe it just works the fans a whole lot less. I really don't know. I'm very curious though to see what happens. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos, and go get some fresh air and touch some grass.